Hello everyone, and welcome to the TV show review for Defiance. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Adam.
And so, Defiance has a lot of stuff going on. It's a post-apocalyptic world that's on Earth. All these races come to settle on Earth, and so let's kind of talk about those first. So we have the Indogenes. Now the Indogenes are like these technical people. They're like, science is the best thing ever. They kind of when they're younger, they get put into what they're going to be into. They're supposed to focus on that one thing, but they have enhancements and stuff like that. That's just kind of like gives you a little bit into the Indogenes.
Right, and another one of them are the Castians.
Yes.
And the Castians are like, they're like very pale skinned. They have very like sharp looking, penetrating kind of eyes and pure white hair, almost like a Targaryen in the Game of Thrones.
Yes.
They look really cool. They're actually my favorite to look at of all the races, the major ones we're going to mention and the minor ones. But as far as their personality and their culture goes, they're very, very prideful people. If you cross them, they're ruthless. They will kill you. They will backstab you. They almost really are the Game of Thrones group for the show, right?
Very much so. They're the Lannisters.
Right. They're or Baelish.
Baelish.
They're ruthless. They're killers. They're very traditionalists, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They're really there are definitely like some in their group that are like, all right, our planet was destroyed. We live on Earth. They actually gave us a place in Brazil to actually build up our group, but we want more because we're a very power-hungry group. You know, there's some of their people, their younger people, that want to kind of adapt and live with the other people as opposed to just trying to rule them. But there's obviously the leaders of their communities that do not want that. They're out to be numero uno.
Yes.
And these people are also very sexualized. They live in these crazy like white houses where it's like glowing white, and you know, the men like they have all the power of the relationship. The women are basically just devices. It's almost kind of like a medieval era kind of a concept where the women are used for sex, having kids, and assisting the dude. I mean that's pretty much it for them.
Yeah.
And the guy's trying to absorb all the power that he possibly can. It's kind of a medieval kind of a concept.
I agree. And then we also have the Erathians. Now the Erathians are like the tribal people. They are very spiritual, very one with nature. They kind of look like cat people in a way.
Kind of. They have like big eyes and orbital bones and foreheads.
Yes, definitely. They like to become, you know, they like to be in their surroundings of like nature and stuff, but they also, because this is a new Earth thing, they try to assimilate with, you know, the other races. They're very combative. In fact, they pride themselves on their combat skills. Because they're religious, they kind of have ceremonial things. That's just, you know, like I was saying, they try to assimilate with people. They like to work in mines and like kind of farming. They just kind of like to do that stuff.
And the last of the major races in Defiance are the humans. The humans are a species that they're the originators of the ones who lived on the planet Earth, which is the planet that this takes place on.
Yes.
And they're a really random group. You know, they're not quite as tribal. They're kind of like the balance. They're not as tribal as the Erathians. They're not quite as ruthless as the Castians. They're not as intelligent as the Indogenes, but they're kind of like number 2 in all those categories.
Yes.
And they're basically, they have probably the majority of the population, probably because it's their home planet.
Probably, you know.
You know, I don't know. They look kind of boring, to be honest. I wish they would have come up with a more creative idea, but whatever. Whatever. So anyway, now we're going to get on to the actual show itself.
Yes.
And we will start off with the characters. The main character, Nolan, what were your thoughts?
I thought he was a good character to have. He's in the beginning, he doesn't really start off strong, but as the first season kind of goes on, he gets a little stronger with his, like, the character development in his character. I wouldn't say he's, like, my favorite character But he, you know, there's definitely good qualities with him. He's a good character to have, especially with, you know, Arissa, who is his adoptive daughter. I know we talked about this. I wish the two characters had more, you know, dialogue stuff, more stuff together, but he's not bad.
Personally, his name is Grant Bowler, by the way.
Yes.
And I had seen him on True Blood for his stint on there. He's not a main character. He's not a bad actor. Don't get me wrong with what I'm saying. But a lead actor, the one to carry the show, needs to be somebody with kind of charisma. You know, just kind of that it factor. And he's kind of lacking that, which I think takes away from the show a little bit. But he's not bad. I wish that they wrote him out a little bit better, or at least a little bit more original. I know a lot of people, kind of myself included, felt like they were almost taking a little bit of Mal from Firefly and Han from Star Wars, and just trying to take up a bunch of other big sci-fi popular people and just trying to throw them in and like, yeah, we got a guy that's just like that. And that's really what it feels like with this character. As you mentioned, it would have been nice with his co-main character, who we'll get to in a second,
yes,
if they had more interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of her, Arissa,
yes,
she's an Arathian.
Yes, she is.
And what were your thoughts on her?
Well, kind of like Nolan's character. She was very whiny in the beginning. I know we both agree on that. But as the show went on, her character got stronger. Like we were telling you, the Arathians are combative people, and we just would have liked to seen a lot more combative skills with her. Just more being
an awesome character that knives people.
Yeah, instead of, you know, being the kind of... I'm not quite sure what her age is, but she... We had some dispute on this, and neither of us looked it up, to be honest, so it might be out there. Yeah.
She thought she was like a 14, 15-year-old. Like,
no.
You were like, oh, she's just a teenager, and I was like, she seems like low 20s, maybe like 20 even, like somewhere in there for the character. We had some disputes on that, and she was even defending the whininess to start. But,
I tried.
But she wore down. She wore her down. She wore poor Sarah down. It's so... I wanted to love this character so much. I wanted this to be my character. And she has her moments in the show where you're like, yeah, this is what I wanted. I wanted her to be this awesome... Because she's got these knives she carries around. She stabs people. She throws them. It's awesome. She's just like fearless, kills people. That's what you want to see. Even her humor when she's in kind of that mode is a lot better. Like when we talked about with Nolan, I can't say exactly what episode it was off the top of my head, but there was an episode where they had just kind of like a little dialogue, which there was not enough of at all between the two, because they were trying to build, you know, the interaction around these two.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they had just kind of like a little joke about, you know, how she's just like staring him down when he was asleep, and it was like unnerving or whatever.
Yes.
And there's times where you're just like, this is what I want, but then she just like reverts to like little kid, like whiny high school girl kind of mode, and it's so annoying.
Yeah.
It's so annoying, and I hate it so much.
Well, and then there was the episodes where it just kind of got awkward with her. Anyway, moving on, we have Datak Tar and his wife Stama Tar. What were your thoughts on those people?
Well, first with Datak, I really liked him. I think he's kind of like an anti-hero. He's not really the villain, but he's kind of the villain. He's helping the city, and he's hurting it at the same time. He's the leader of the Castians,
mm-hmm.
and he defines their race perfect.
Yes.
Completely ruthless. I actually really enjoyed Tony Curran's version of him. I think he was maybe the best bit of casting they did for the entire show. There's some that are really bad, some that aren't, but I think his was probably the most spot-on one. I really liked that. And with his wife, Stama, the actress Jamie Murray, I had previously seen her in both Spartacus and in Dexter, two of my favorite shows ever, and she never really struck me as somebody I really liked in either of those. This, I think, fit her acting ability a lot better than those two did. I don't know, personally, I think this is the best bit she's ever done in a TV show. I think both of them were really solid. I mean,
yeah, I agree. I also think that they had really good chemistry working together.
They did.
They did a great job being, you know, husband and wife and having that just chemistry that worked. And I mean, just the attitude she had with the character, it, like, creeps you out, and then you're like, well...
Right, the whole time you're like, is she being evil? Or is she not?
So, moving on from the Tars, we have Mayor Amanda Rosewater, and her sister Kenya.
Speaking of characters I knew from Dexter, Julie Benz, I thought she was great in Dexter, and actually I think she's really good in this. I don't know if her casting is as good for this. I don't like her as much for this role, but she's still a good actress, and I think she's probably one of the more skilled actors on the set, even if she's not the best fit for her character, at least for my personal opinion. I kind of liked her in the sad, kind of desperate kind of role, but I don't know. It's a personal thing, I guess. I don't know. I thought she did better with that, but I still liked it. And with her sister, who is played by Mia Kirshner, I thought she was good. I liked her for that role. Actually preferred her more out of the two sisters as far as the actual characters go. I thought she was the more intriguing one. She had the more interesting plot stuff. Her sister, the mayor, was kind of bland, I thought. Like, it's pretty stereotypical, like almost like a Western mayor or something. Where like, I'll step up and be the hero. I don't know. I liked her a bit more.
See, I disagree. I kind of liked Amanda Rosewater better than her sister. I just feel like,
you just hate her because she's a prostitute.
No, I don't. I liked, you know, Julie Benz, you know, she, like you're saying, she's a really good actress. I think she really did a really good job with this role. She fit it, and I don't have a problem with, you know, Mia Kirshner. I think she's, you know, a pretty good actress. I just feel like sometimes it was just a little, and this is probably on, you know, maybe the writer's end, but sometimes it just felt a little overdone in some of her line work, but...
Could be.
But, you know.
I like the character more, but I will stick with Julie Benz being the better actress. And another character, Rafe McCauley, a Twilight star in his own right.
Yes.
Not one of the younger ones, though.
No.
What were your thoughts on Graham Greene's performance?
Oh, goodness.
It sucked. Okay, it sucked. It was awful.
No.
It was the worst cast character. He was boring. He couldn't do emotion for anything. He was the stereotype of what you think of a Twilight actor. It was awful.
Well, he did... Okay, I will just vouch. He did a pretty good job in Twilight. I have seen Twilight, yes. But I agree. His emotions, they were just not there.
No.
His acting ability with the character, he just didn't, like, get it. I don't know. It just, like, he was supposed to be, like, this protective, like, overprotective dad of his kids, and it just seemed like he was always in this, like, serious kind of mode, and, like,
he never
not adding emotions.
Chilled, right.
Yeah, right.
He needed to tone it down. Like, he can do, like, the serious stuff where he's like, I'm gonna stare you down and be a
right. He does that.
fighting
He does
person.
that really well.
But he needs to tone it down. Right? He just never gets the emotion. He never draws you in. Not once in the entire first season does he make you at all feel like, wow, maybe this isn't just bad acting. Maybe there's something to it. It's awful. It's downright awful. They should not have cast. And they even had some weird little joke about Twilight thrown in. He's kind of like the thrown in like leader of the humans, even though he's not the mayor. Yeah, I don't know.
He owns the mines and stuff, but
it sucks. It's bad. It's awful. In fact, it's terrible.
So
So
we have a couple more characters to tell you about. The next one, he is Tommy Lascelles.
Yes.
One of the officers that works with Nolan and Orissa. Kind of has this awkward relationship with Orissa.
We'll get more into that during the writing.
Yes, we will.
His name is, or the actor's name is Duchesne Williams. And honestly, I thought he was absolutely 100% mediocre. Wasn't really good or bad. It was there.
Yeah, Like, I mean, you know, there was episodes where, you know, it wasn't bad, and then there was episodes where it was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, like, oh, you're here. What's up?
Like, I guess we really didn't get to see a lot of his acting ability. He was just kind of one of the side characters, but he was in there.
Towards the end of the season, they did kind of throw in and give him kind of a lead role for an episode and give it a little bit of backstory. But you still never really felt like, hey, now I really like him or dislike him. There's just not enough to really form an opinion. And he's in it a decent amount. He's in every episode of the season. And you can't form much of an opinion unless you have, like, just a natural bias. Like, there's really nothing good or bad to say.
Yeah.
Alright, and the last one, saving Sarah's favorite for last. Somebody she decided she liked in the first episode.
Yeah.
And was her absolute favorite throughout the whole thing. I don't think you wavered on that, really. Doc Ewell, played by Trina Keating. And what did you think?
Well, I guess the whole reason I kind of liked her was she kind of just had this, like, sarcastic kind of, like, undertone. Even though she, you know, Indogenes are kind of popular for not showing a lot of emotion, but they have that sarcastic undertone.
Right, and she fit that. Like, she was very emotionless.
And you never knew if she was, like, good or bad. She was just kind of in there for herself.
Right.
But, I mean, it's really cool because you get to learn her backstory a little bit, especially with, you know, the mayor before Amanda Rosewater. It just, I don't know, there's a lot going into it.
Right, she's one of the more rich characters.
Yes.
They definitely put more time into her than a lot of the others. As far as her acting goes, I think she did what she needed to do. I mean, it's not one of those roles where you're going to be blown away.
Right.
Because the character itself is supposed to be emotionless.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's you know, it's a thing. You know?
Yeah.
Personally, for me, like all the characters in it, I never had one that just drew me in and made me love that character. I know you really liked the Doctor.
Yeah.
I never got one where I was just like, this is my character. I really wanted to like Arissa. I loved it when she was the knife wielding, awesome
Me too.
action person. But then she'd just start whining in the like next scene or the next episode, and I'd just, and it really doesn't stop. Ever. She just keeps whining. Moving on.
Moving on. Directing and writing.
Directing and writing.
Directing and writing.
As far as the directing goes, personal opinions?
At times the directing was a little shoddy. In particular, there was a scene where a guy had a gun and he put it back in. And then there was another scene where you could see it put him back in. Like, are you repeating yourself or what?
Just pulling it in and out.
Definitely just kind of, you know, little tidbit things, but the little tidbit things are what makes directing, like, amazing.
Right. And there's no real shots. I can't think of any in the entire first season that really made me think, like, wow, that was awesome. And if I can't think of any shots or any particular scenes that blew me away, then there probably really wasn't any. I mean, can you think of any?
I mean, like you're saying, not off the top of my head. Maybe the first episode where they're having, like, all the shooting and, like, fighting going on, maybe. But not anything that I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that totally.
It wasn't like earlier this year with Spartacus, there was like a line where Spartacus was fighting 2 Roman soldiers that they had captured, and he's fighting them off by himself, just for sport, basically. Like, hey, you put us in gladiatorial, we'll put you in it. There's this awesome scene, and it's almost like they had all the sound dimmed, and then they had Gannicus speaking about what it feels like to be like that kind of a person, to, you know, when he's discussing it to somebody else. There's no, like, scenes like that just grip you, you know, like the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones.
Oh,
you know?
my gosh.
There's no scenes like that. So if
Right.
you're looking for a show that's going to be a great show, that's, you know.
Directing wise, anyway.
Right.
I mean.
What about the writing?
The writing, like I was saying, some of the characters, I don't know if it was bad acting or if it was some bad character writing.
Really bad.
The story writing, very intriguing. Like, I wanted to love this this season. Like, I want to love this idea of Defiance, which I do love it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it. There's just, you know, there was parts where we weren't sure if it was going to go anywhere, especially when, you know, in the first couple episodes, it's like, oh, we're going to, like, bomb Defiance or whatever. It's like, oh, are they just going to keep doing this over and over again? This is going to get a little repetitive. Character writing, like, saying a little shoddy for me, but, you know, overall, it kept me intrigued, kept me, you know, wanting to come back to Defiance. Might have been the music. the theme music. But that's how I felt about the writing. What about you?
Personally, for me, I think it's almost a tale of two stories with the writing. The first half of the season, it was the first season, obviously. Yeah. So they spent it trying to build everyone up, whether it was the environment or the people, and they really didn't have story stuff. And personally, I think they took too long. Half a season is too much. Especially when they were still lacking the most important part of the writing, which is the entire, like, chemistry between the two main characters we keep mentioning. But there's a reason, and if you watched it, you know what we're talking about. It's about these two having kind of an us against the world kind of feel, and they kind of settle into this town, and they're supposed to be like, we will always be together, no matter what, but then there's not much with those two interacting. Mm-hmm. Like, there needed to be, I think, more dialogue between just the two of them. There was maybe 3 or 4 scenes with the two of them speaking alone in the entire thing. Right. Like, that's not a confirmed number. That's just me randomly throwing out what I can remember. Mm-hmm. And I really think they needed to build up the character between Nolan and Arissa. I really think that was the biggest blunder. The biggest by far, because that was so essential to it. Yeah, I agree. I think once you get past the first half of the season, it really picks up. It really gets better. It doesn't get great. It doesn't, like, blow you away with anything. But it gets a lot better. And in fact, it gets enjoyable. Mm-hmm. They finally get to story, and it's not just like, we'll allude to, like, one tiny thing in an episode, and then we'll just waste time, right? Right. It was almost like they weren't sure where to go with the story or the characters, and then they finally like, oh, we get it. Right. I think there's some of them they still didn't even know by the end of the season. It kind of felt like that. And we're like we were saying with the romance with Arissa and Tommy, it just very awkward writing. Not even just them. It was really almost every romance and every sex scene that they had. There was never a sex scene that seemed somewhat romantic at all between any of the pairs. There was never really any romances, I would say maybe outside of the Tars, where they're supposed to be kind of with the way their species, I think theirs was good, but I think a lot of the others, like the Tar's son and Rafe's daughter, I think that was kind of weird at points and like really contradicting on some of the charactering there. Yeah. But I don't know, there was some stuff that was just really like confusing. If you look at it one episode at a piece and you're not really paying too much attention to the characters, you probably won't pick up on some of it. But if you look like the first episode when Daytak's son is like, he's fighting somebody off in a bar, and then it turns around and there's like this little bug mutant thing attacking he and his girlfriend, and he starts running and pissing himself basically. And then later on in the season he's fighting people off, he's threatening people to kill people, and then I don't know, it's just it goes back and forth with some of the characters. It's very just contradictory. Right. First, the other kind of miscellaneous things, you kind of touched on it earlier with the music. I think that the theme was maybe the best part of the entire show. Dubstep theme music. And it's not like an over-the-top where they just lose it. It's just enough to where it's enjoyable. Yes. And I really like it. That was my favorite part of the entire show. It's probably my second favorite theme that I can think of right now, behind Game of Thrones. Oh my gosh, Game of Thrones is amazing. But that's a whole different thing. But yeah, I love the theme to Defiance. I also love it when they put it into the episodes. Like, they don't
use it. They twist the theme so it has a different kind of like, maybe they make it a little more orchestral or you know, something a little more piano or whatever. But I really enjoyed it. It got a little awkward when they started putting other songs in episodes. Like, it was like, all right, so it's the end of the episode. It's time to put in a
random like cover of a popular like there's a Nirvana song, and it's just like a random cover that's not that great.
Yeah.
And like they get worse. Like they don't get better as it goes on. They don't stay the same. They get worse. They get really awkward sometimes.
They do a Time After Time cover in one of them.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it's. I wish they didn't do that.
Yeah.
I really wish they didn't.
I like the theme, you know. I just like the theme going into the episodes.
Use that kind of like they do with Doctor Who, where they don't add other people's songs.
Right.
They just use their own when they need it, right?
Yep.
That's the way it should be. I don't even Game of Thrones kind of does that, don't they?
Yep. They have
like 3 or 4 songs.
Yeah, they've got like their main theme, and then they have like a kind of sadder violin music.
Reigns of Castamere.
Yeah. Oh gosh, let's not talk about that. So for, you know, recommendations, definitely if you are a sci-fi fan,
right,
if you love the Sci-Fi Channel flicks, or, you know, TV shows, definitely check it out. I would not say this is for kids because of some of the episodes.
Sex scenes.
Yes, it gets a little awkward. But yeah, definitely people who like sci-fi, alien stuff, you know, space kind of things.
People who are extremely picky about CGI in their TV series, I don't mind it as much in TV as I do in movies. Movies, that'll drive me crazy. The CGI is pretty awful in this. There's a lot of stuff you're like, fake, 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 fake. You'll get quite a bit of that, especially in the first episode with the battle scene. It's pretty bad sometimes.
Could have been worse.
If this was on like an HBO or a Showtime, I would be railing on it probably a bit harder. But it's sci-fi. It's good for sci-fi.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like they held down the directors or the creative minds behind it, even though the creative minds didn't think much about their characters, whatever. If you want a good sci-fi adventure, it's nothing new for the genre. It kind of rehashes a lot of old stuff with like Terra Nova and I don't know, just some other stuff. It's nothing original, but if you're looking for a fun sci-fi show that you don't have to take too seriously, I'd say that's your show.
Yeah, definitely. So that's our review for Defiance. We will check you back later.
And stuff.
Bye.